Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, we hear untold stories, and we explore the minds of some brilliant people who are behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm your host, Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity. Really glad that you're here today. Thanks for tuning in, and we have a special entry into our Grow series. The idea of taking kind of like a TED Talk sized amount of time and zeroing in with one of the members of the All Ambient family, digging into a subject that they're passionate about, and today is no exception to that. Kirk Smith of We Dream of Eden shares a Grow series talk with us on what it is to be prolific, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I don't hear too many artists saying I want to make less art. So this is a great conversation to kind of examine what is going on in your internal engine with the topic of just how much you're creating and what your level of being prolific is. And I don't want to steal any thunder from Kirk. It is an incredible talk. We will get right to it in a second. But before that, if you have not jumped in with All Ambient on Discord yet, please do so. The link is down in the show notes. And we'd love to have you. A lot of people gathering there certainly from the ambient genres, but also from surrounding genres, and just creators wanting to get encouragement from each other and wanting to learn together and have some fun together. It's a really great community that's growing there. And also make sure to jump to a couple of the discussions that are happening about the podcast. We literally talk about the topics that are happening in each episode of the podcast, and then also any feedback, any questions you might have for future episodes. It's a great place. Also visit us at all-ambient.com. There's some great things coming in the near future. You're not going to want to miss it. You will see some friendly faces a little bit more. You will have the opportunity to make some things with some resources that we're doing. I'll stop teasing it soon, but for now, just stay up to speed on what's happening at all-ambient.com. Just a great hub for what's going on in the All Ambient family, and please come join the All Ambient family. We'd love to have you. Let's get right into Kirk's entry into the All Ambient Grow series on being prolific.
Hey everybody, this is Kirk Smith, and today I wanted to talk to you for a little bit about the idea of being prolific. If you don't know me, I'm a music composer with several projects that I write music for, and I started as a music producer or music lover. Then I got into writing, and through that process I learned a whole lot about myself, about music, about this idea of being prolific, and honestly, I'm actually in a season of where I'm having to re-challenge myself in these same ideas. So thanks for the opportunity to share, and thanks for listening. I hope it really helps you, and I hope it helps me too. And so we'll just remind each other who we are and what we have inside of us. And yeah, I hope it helps. Also, a lot of the things I might say are coming from a Christian perspective. That's my experience. It's my faith. It's my belief. If that resonates with you, that's awesome. If that's not where you're at, I do know that there's a lot of truth and good stuff in here. So take from it what you will. And there you go. There's an intro. So now let's get on with it. So the reality is you are prolific. You already are. You are prolific. We are prolific. The human race is prolific. And the main thesis of that belief is the reality that we are made in the image of the creator, ultimate creator. So you are filled with that same image. And so you are filled with an unlimited resource of creative power because you are built, formed in the image of an ultimate creator. So what is musical prolificness when you imagine it? To me, it's somebody who produces a large body of work over time, and it just seems there's stuff coming out of them all the time, and it's beautiful. And one thing to kind of fight the overwhelmingness of, oh, I got to make all this stuff, is this reality that people overestimate what you can accomplish in a year. Like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And then you just get overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden it's April and 1/4 of the year is over. But we overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So the reality of walking in this prolificness that we have is this idea of this slow, consistent growth, this slow, consistent faith and these works that we so into, and there's this compounding interest, this exponential thing that happens as we slowly move in this reality of who we are, being prolific. So it might not all happen at once, but over time, it really does become exponential. And that's just the nature of walking in who we are. So you are prolific, and you have to kind of remind yourself of that. But there are some practical things we can do to help us along this path. And one of those things is realizing that whatever actions you repeat over and over again, you will get good at. This is something I had to learn early on. I didn't learn it early on. I had to. I could have. I probably did in ways. But whatever you do over and over again, you get good at. So typically what we do over and over again is we start ideas and then we move on. So we can start things. We get really good at starting things. A little idea, a little sketch, a melody, a sound, whatever it is, we start it and then we get into the process. Maybe we're writing and then we just kind of abandon it. And so we do that over and over again and we get really good at it. So in order to become more prolific, you have to build the discipline of finishing. You have to practice the discipline of finishing. You have to sit down at the table or at the desk or at the whatever and set your intentions that I'm going to start something and I'm going to finish it. I might not finish it today. I might not finish it this week. I could probably finish it this month, but you're going to finish it. And then you practice that over and over again. And the more things you finish, the better you get at that process of finishing. And you will define and refine your own process for what you and how you finish things. I might talk about that, but you have to finish. You have to build that skill. And I could talk for a long time about that, but there is a book that was very helpful for me. 2 books, actually. John Acuff wrote a book called Quitter, and he wrote a book called Finish. And those 2 books were really helpful for me in my self-talk, in my perfectionism, in my identity, in my, what's the thing where you feel like a fraud, imposter syndrome. That's a good one to help us not finish things. And as you finish things, you learn so much about your own taste, your own process, your own whatever. It's all there. You learn so much by finishing. And then that's the kind of thing where if you did that for a year and finished tracks, whether it was 5 tracks, 10 tracks, 20 tracks, I'm telling you that will exponentially make you more prolific in the years to come, in the months to come. So remember, whatever you do consistently, you will get good at. Okay. Finishing is a skill to learn and a practice to walk into. And so then the other thing is realizing that we're prolific, that there's an element of faith, belief to that. And then there's an element of works, meaning things we have to do. So there's things we have to change in our thinking, and then there's things we have to change in our action. That's faith and that's works. And there's the scripture that talks about faith without works is dead. Just like I would say works without faith is dead. Works without faith becomes burnout because you're trying to do this thing and not everything's going to work. All the actions you take are not going to produce like you want them to. And in those moments, it's the faith that carries you through. And then on the other side, having the faith to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. I think this could work. I think I can make some things. That faith can then fuel you to say, I'm going to do the work. And sometimes when you're in the middle of the work, you need the faith. So I'm going to give you some illustrations from my own experience that hopefully illustrate that. But just to remind you that you are filled with an unlimited resource of creative power. So that's one thing. The next thing I want to move on to is this phrase called make it till you make it. So you might have heard people say, fake it till you make it. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of pretending to be something until you feel like you are, because the reality is you'll never feel like you've arrived even when you arrive, because you'll always have the opportunity to compare yourself to somebody else, and then you're just trying to put on a show, and it doesn't seem like a sustainable way to live. Fake it till you make it. So my way to combat that is to say make it till you make it. Whatever you're making is a snapshot of where you are in your life, where you are in your skill set, where you are in your taste, where you are in what you're going through, what you're thinking about. And so it's like a scrapbook, memorabilia. It's like therapy, whatever it is. It's you processing in real time, improvising art from life. And whether you're just posting that to your friends or you're putting it on SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever, you're making it. And that's helping you become prolific. So it's already beneficial, even if nobody's listening to it, because you're practicing the process of finishing. So make it till you make it. But you have to define those two its. There's two its. There's the make it that you have to define. What is it? And then there's the till you make it. What does that mean for you? If you don't define what success is as far as making it is, and you don't define what it is you want to make, you're kind of just groping around in the dark playing. Sometimes that can be very liberating because you're like, I'm just going to be creative for the sake of being creative because I love doing it. And that's fantastic. And you can learn a lot from that. That's kind of what happened to me, honestly, with this ambient project, is I was producing artists. I was hustling as a mixing engineer, mastering engineer, whatever work would come my way, recording people. And it was fun and great. But I realized I was helping everybody else build their own catalogs and I wasn't making anything for myself. And so then I just started making stuff in the mornings. I would spend 30 minutes a day before the kids woke up, and they were all little bitty. Well, I didn't even have all of them at that point, just two, little bitty, and waking up, and I'd do a piano thing for 30 minutes, and then I'd do a bass thing, and then I'd add a pad, and then I'd add strings, and then I'd do a mix, and it would take me about 5 or 6 days to finish a track. And I didn't know what I was doing it for. In my mind, I was saying, well, I'll make these little instrumental vignettes for pretend movies that are in my head, and it'll just give me something to anchor to. But I didn't have any grand strategy to do an artist thing at that point. But I was just making it. Okay. But at some point, I realized that I could put this stuff out. And then from there, I had to say, like, okay, well, I love doing this. I'll do this. I would do this for free. But man, if I could get like 100 tracks over the next 3 years or 4 years, whatever, I can't remember the timeline I set for myself, but if I could, because I could do an album and release 3 albums in a year, that's 30 songs. I could do that for 3 years. And if I could get each one of those tracks just to make like $1 a day, then dang, that would be pretty good. That'd be a decent income. And that's kind of where I landed. So I got kind of analytical about it. So I had a make it till you make it. And so for me, it was being able to replace most, if not all of my income from just the streaming revenue of music. And I knew that was going to take a long time, and it did, but I knew what I wanted to make because I enjoyed making this type of art. And I had an idea of how many pieces of art I would have to make and promote in order to make it sustainable. And the reality is that some songs did make $1 a day, and some songs made $3 a day, and some songs made $0 a day, and some made a lot more. And so in the process of kind of defining what I wanted to make, and then what would be success for me, that gave me something to push towards, to have faith for, to set my works toward, moving toward. So that was kind of the faith in the works. And, I don't know what yours is. I don't know what you want to make. What I would say is that if you don't know what you want to make, answer this question. What would you make every day if money was no object, if you didn't have to pay bills, whatever? If money was no object, what type of music would you wake up in the morning and say, you know what, it'd be really fun to make this? I would do that. Could be ambient music, could be lo-fi beats, could be singer-songwriter stuff, could be drum and bass, electro house, whatever it is that I love doing this. Do that. And if you're like, well, I don't know if this will make money. If you're passionate about a type of music and you really enjoy it, there's definitely some kind of way to make money from it. So don't just do the thing you think will make money, because it's just not sustainable, because it'll take years to make it profitable. And by then you'll probably burn out unless you somehow grow to love doing the thing you're doing, which is fine too. So I just say pick something you absolutely love making and then make a ton of it. And then for you, define what success is. If success for you is I put out X amount of material a year that I'm proud of, and I work with X amount of collaborative artists that I'm proud of, then that's success to me. And that's great. Then you've made it. And then you just keep making it. And then see if there's more faith for other levels of success that you do or don't want. And so that's kind of the make it till you make it thing. So you are prolific. Practice the art of finishing. You make it till you make it, but you have to define that so you don't feel like you don't have any goals, which is essentially goal setting. And so for me, I have to use deadlines. I have to use time in order to help me realize my goals. And sometimes I'm really good with this and sometimes I'm not. And when I'm good, I use something called the 12-week year, which is basically just, it's quarterly. It's setting your goals for a quarter for 3 months. as opposed to setting your goals for the year. Because we have these grand visions of what we're going to accomplish in this year. And then we get to like November, December, and we're like, oh my gosh, where did everything go? And you kind of push and then you accomplish some things. But imagine having 4 of those, where at the end of each season, at the end of each quarter, you have this kind of drive to push towards the finish line. So he talks about this in his book Finisher, but essentially you need to learn how to make some realistic goals, outputs for yourself, and then give yourself some realistic deadlines, even if they're not for anybody else but yourself. Now, if you're working with other artists or working with labels, then you're probably going to have deadlines, and that's going to be helpful. But if you're just doing stuff on your own, you don't have any deadlines unless you make the deadline. So I had to do that. I had to say, you know what? I want to make 20 pieces of music in this next 3 months. Okay. So, because I do lo-fi beats too, and I write songs. And so it's like, all right, I need to do maybe 7 ambient tracks. Oh, and I got that collab. That counts as one. I need to do 5 lo-fi tracks, and I need to try to write songs. And so that means I need to block off these times. And so once you kind of have your goal, and it could be 2 songs a month. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It has to be attainable, but maybe a little bit of a stretch. And then once you see the goal, then you can reverse engineer booking sessions for yourself. And these sessions can be at night. They can be in the early morning. If you have times during a work day, if you're self-employed or whatever, then you can do it during your studio times. So like I'm full-time musician at this point, and I still have to book sessions with myself for the things that I want to accomplish. Otherwise, just the other administrative things of life come through, and family and all that stuff. And so you have to get in the habit of booking studio sessions for yourself, writing sessions for yourself. And whether that's just a laptop in a living room or bedroom or down in the kitchen before everybody's up, that is what it is. But try to find a consistent time that you know you can show up for. And you'll start to see, you'll be like, okay, it takes me about 8 working hours to get us something that I really feel is close. So that means if I only have an hour a day, it's going to take me 8 business days or 8 working days to finish this track. If you only have 30 minutes, then it's going to take you about 2 weeks. Now, it might go faster once you get into the flow of it, but set yourself some realistic goals so you don't feel overwhelmed and be like, I need to finish this. You have to define what you're going to make. And when you practice making it, you'll start to see how long it takes. Now, some things happen fast and some things happen longer, but there is kind of a middle ground of you're just like, I think I could do this in about 4 hours. I think I could do this in about 20 hours, whatever the piece is. And don't let the amount of time that you spent on something give it more or less value, honestly. There's all kinds of stories and artists who make things very quickly that are beautiful. And there's artists that labor over stuff that's also beautiful. And that's also maybe not your cup of tea. So find your time and your rhythm for what you want to do. All right. So I think I'm getting close to going long. So I want to see if I can wrap this up in a way that's encouraging and helpful. Because a lot of this can feel like it's overwhelming, and I don't want that. I'm going to share this one quote, and then I'm going to give you probably another thing to watch. So this one quote is, the opposite of war is not peace, it is creation. Because war is destruction. Creation is what we do. So as you are growing in your skill set and growing in making what you're making, a lot of times you can feel like I don't see an immediate value of what I'm doing. Surely there's a better way for me to be using my time right now. I'm literally just working on music. At least I can feel that way when I think about responsibilities in the world and all that kind of stuff. But we have to remind ourselves that we were made to create, that we were made to fill the world with beauty. And so pursuing that in a healthy way is right. And it's good. We need to take care of our other responsibilities, and we need to take care of our families and ourselves and our own health. But making a part of your life, a part of your rhythm to be creative is always a success in my view, even if you can't control what takes off and something goes viral and something gets on a playlist, and you can't control that stuff. You can be strategic in collaborations and the way you reach out to people and all that kind of stuff. But even that, you can't guarantee what's going to land and what's not. But being creative is important. And so you have to set time for that. Last part. I think I'll use a little anecdote from my own life, my own experience. to maybe drive home this point a little bit more about one of the hardest things for an artist to do is to believe in themselves. This is back to the faith thing. If we don't believe that we can do this, if we don't believe we have anything to say, or we don't believe that we can get the skill of finishing and make beautiful things, it's going to be really hard when we're doing the work of designing a sound or coming up with a chord progression or writing a melody or mixing a piano or doing a drum track or writing a lyric, performing. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance when we're in that place. And so what I want to remind you is you have something beautiful inside you and you have something to say. And in order to find your voice, you have to use your voice. In order to find your voice, you have to use your voice. So you just have to make stuff. And when you make it, you'll learn things. You'll hear things back. You're like, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. Let me try this. Ooh, I like that. And then when you get this little, ooh, I like that. Now that becomes a tool, it becomes a sound, it becomes a technique that now is part of you. It could be anything, a sound you make, a progression, a tempo, a structure, a song structure. Ooh, I love that song structure. But you have to make these things. And then in the making of things, you use your voice. And so then you find your voice. So I want you to remember to believe in yourself. But it's not just like this, manifesting, sitting there, believing thing. You have to take that belief and you have to move it into works. You have to move it into action. Repeat the steps of finishing. For me, I love using a notebook, or I use the little notes sidebar and the logic thing to keep up with what I'm trying to accomplish for that particular track. And then there's the last thing. There's an amazing podcast by Jack Conte called Work to Publish. And that's something that I took to heart. And essentially, every time I sit down to work on a piece of music, I'm treating it as if this is something that I am going to put out. I'm not just noodling around. Now, there's times when I am just noodling around for fun or practice or learning a skill or whatever. But when I sit down, I'm like, okay, I have a project in mind. I have a number of tracks in mind. I want this thing, this idea that I do to be one of the things. And I'll set a timer and I will sketch for a certain amount of time. And then I'll finish that sketch, I'll walk away, I'll come back, and I'll flesh it out. I'll walk away, I'll come back, flesh it out some more, and then I'll move on to mixing and mastering. And so I kind of have my process. I start with a sketch, and then I flesh it out, mix it out, repeat. Has become my process. And so for that type of music, it's great. Now I'm trying new things. So now I have to start a whole new process of faith. I'm playing a lot of guitar, and that's not my normal thing. And so I'm having to go in faith and do the works and do the reps. There's going to be stuff for you like that you have to do. So that's another thing. And then, but when you sit down, set your intention that whatever I'm working on, this piece, I want to release it. I want it to be done at least. And a lot of the stuff you will find is that you will release it, or it'll be a really good finished product that was a good rep of your finishing skills. Last thing, I know I said last thing before, but the last thing is collaboration. If you want to be prolific, learn how to collaborate, because sometimes the hardest thing for me is just getting that initial sketch down, that initial idea to help me guide my way, and then I flesh it out. But if you're collaborating with somebody, they might send you a couple sketches. And so now instead of having to create 5 sketches, I only have to create 2 sketches. Or instead of doing a 10 album track, I only have to do 5 sketches and they do 5 sketches, and then we go back and forth. And now all of a sudden we've doubled our efforts, and then we get in this kind of flow. So if you can learn how to collaborate with other artists, that is going to be so beneficial to being prolific. And so in that, you're going to build your catalog and you're going to build your relationships. So it's a win-win. So there you go. That's my whole thing. You are prolific. You were made in the image of a prolific being. You have to have faith in yourself, and you have to let that faith turn into works. When those works get hard and you start to burn out, you have to remember and come back to that place of faith, and then you just repeat. You finish, and you finish again, and you finish again, and you finish again, and you make it until you make it. And whatever that it is, you have to decide. And then whatever making it looks like for you, you have to decide. Don't get overwhelmed. It's not about the hustle. It's not about the drive necessarily. You got to want it. But it's more about this faith-filled, slow, consistent growth and believing that it is important to create and that you want to move into being that. So I'm excited for you all. I can't wait to hear and see and witness all of the beauty and creations that you're going to fill the world with. So thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes, and I hope that helped, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.